like to call the July 23rd meeting of the Albany County Legislature Law Committee to order. First item on the agenda is approving the meeting minutes from last month, so that we had an opportunity to review them. Any questions? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from last month? Mr. Berger, second by Mr. Feeney. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're going to take business out of order just because we have a very, very lengthy agenda, if that's okay with members of the committee. We
Yes.
start with the items that are on the agenda for the folks who are present from the executive's office to discuss them. Can we start with item number 32, if that's okay with everybody? Any objections?
Nope.
Okay. Item number 32, authorize the agreements regarding Albany County insurance coverage. Eugenia is here from the county attorney's office.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Nice to see you.
Thank you for taking me out of order. I
Of
appreciate
course.
it. This is the renewal of the county's insurance program for the period starting August 15th. The insurance broker sought renewal quotes as well as alternative quotes from different markets, which is attached to the backup. I'm not sure how much detail you want me to go into, given the length of your meeting tonight. I can tell you that overall premiums are down from where they were last year. Some premiums are up due to operating expenses being up. Our auto premiums are up due to the improvement in our fleet. We purchased new vehicles this year, so our costs are up. Our operating budget is up, which underwriting looks at our operating budget, so some of our premiums are up. Other premiums are down. Med-Mal is down about $50,000, which is significant given that it was a sizable increase last year. Our excess is down. We're switching excess to a different carrier because that was actually going to be an increase of about $10,000, and they switched that coverage to a different carrier. So we're seeing about a $40,000 decrease in that. So overall, premiums are down.
It's good news.
Always good news.
Are there any members of the, Mr. Bergdorf?
What's the net when you get done with your adds and subtracts?
1.2.
No, the net change.
About, adding in my head quickly, about $75,000.
So we saved $75,000 cash year over year.
This from last year, yes.
And Mr. Riley, how did you budget for that? Did you leave it flat or?
Well, we do exacts from, because your premiums are due.
August 5th, so the premiums are due August 15th.
This would be for next year.
Okay. So this number will go into a budget document for next year.
Yes.
One last question. I know the consultant, the professional services, Gallagher Risk Management. How often do you RFP for that?
Every 4 years.
4 years?
Yes.
So it's like, the same sort of thing as a CPA engagement?
Yes.
You could do renewals, but there is a recommendation to consider rotating at some point in time.
Yes. Yes, so what we do is we do 1 year with options to renew. And so long as we are happy with the services, we continue, we issue the RFP every 4 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the committee or other legislators? Mr. Feeney?
I'll move it.
Motion to move it, seconded by Mr. Bergdorf. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much
Thank you.
for coming. We appreciate it. We'll move on to item number 3, authorizing the agreement with the University, 33, yep. Authorizing agreement with the University of Buffalo regarding the student intern field placement program. Ms. Ziegler is here. Wonderful. Can you tell us a little about this?
I'd be happy to. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you again for moving me up. I would like to think that our renown has made its way all the way to Buffalo, and they are recognizing the phenomenal work that we do. We did have a request from Buffalo to take an intern. So this is Buffalo's requirement for us to take one of their interns is to have this contract. They accept all financial responsibility and culpability, but they just want a contract between Albany County and their UAlbany, the college, to have one of their MSW interns do their field work with us. We'd like to think of this as the beginning of a nice long-term relationship, because I think we are doing outstanding work in Albany, and I think it'd be amazing if the rest of the state could benefit from that.
Is this on a year-to-year basis, or would this encompass future interns for
I'm
the fall
hoping this will
semester?
encompass future, so I don't have to come back every year. We have an indefinite one with UAlbany.
Great. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Ziegler? If not, can I have a motion to move it? Ms. Blansky, seconded by Mr. Mayo, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Great, thank you very much. Good luck with the intern.
Thank
I
you.
think that's great. All right, item number 34, authorizing agreement with the DCJS regarding the Stop Violence Against Women grant.
This is the last year, the last extension that they're giving us. So this is a continuation of a grant that we have, and we have had for a number of years. This is a coordinated grant, so we share this grant with the DA's office as well as the sheriff's office. This grant addresses domestic violence, dating violence, sexual violence, and stalking in the city of Albany specifically. So this is something that comes out of primarily Albany Police Court and the county level at the felony levels of county. So this involves our victim specialists, our advocates. This involves an investigator, it involves prosecution, and it involves one of the coordinators at the jail, Larry Warner, to address any type of the PREA, which is Prison Rape and Elimination Act. So it also addresses any sexual violence that may be occurring in Albany County Jail itself.
Great. Any questions? If not, can I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Mayo, seconded by Mr. Feeney, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All righty, have a nice night. All right, now we'll move on to tackle item 131 in the agenda. Okay, item number 1, resolution number 79. Mr. Signoracci, I believe this is yours. Mr. Clarnigan's not here. Did you want to briefly talk about this? I understand there's a couple handouts.
Yes, there's a couple of handouts. I'm gonna table the first item.
Okay.
So that
Do you want
everybody
to go
can-
over the handouts?
No, they can review it, and I'll table it, and we can move on to number 2. It's gonna be tabled at a request of the sponsor.
Item number 1 is? Okay.
Item number 1 is yes.
Item number 2 is resolution number 133. This is disbanding special committees on elder care and court facilities.
Yep, there were a couple of changes to this, so I am going to table this one as well. I believe that there's a handout on this one as well, or this is just one I'm actually just gonna table number 2.
There's no, oh, we don't have any?
No handout, no, it's just, I got confused. I have a few things, so I'm
Okay.
just actually tabling number 2 as well.
Okay, do you want to provide the handout next month for item number 2?
I don't think that there's gonna be a handout.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I spoke, because I have handouts on the other
Sure.
items.
All right, we'll keep moving then. Item number 3, local law number C, this is the paid sick time.
Did you want to take 21 and 22, or you want me to come back?
Yeah, we can do that, sure, you're here. Unless somebody's got an objection, is that all right? We'll take 21 and 22, sponsored by Mr. Signoracci also.
Fine.
Okay. 21, resolution number 234A. This is amending rules of order.
So,
There's a handout here.
yep, the handout's being passed out. I spoke incorrectly about the other one. But this was passed out of law last month with favorable recommendation. I'll be looking to do the same again. There was some clarity questions that were not on the resolution that were added on per the law committee.
Do we have copies?
You have, they're in the handout that's going out.
Yeah, where is it? I haven't seen it.
Yep. Here. One back down there. Give me one. Give mine to the chairman. Anybody need one?
Ralph, do you want to just go over what specifically the change is for this version compared to the one that came out?
Yeah, actually, I have a copy.
Sure.
Thank you. So, on this one, let's see here, and I'll defer to council to help point me in the right direction. Oh, so I know that
You guys want to cover me?
the RLA deadline, which was a Wednesday, they cleaned up language that were in the rules. So you'll wind up seeing that all resolutions that are be presented to the clerk, that'll be on noon on the second, instead of Wednesday, which is in brackets, will be the Thursday preceding the date of the organizational meeting, so that if there's a holiday or, explain to me, maybe I can close my mouth and let council
Sure.
speak.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. So the first change is that it changes the date. As we all are aware, currently in the rules, the date of the individual exchange that we're all familiar with is, in the rules it says Wednesday. Well, again, as we all know, we've been submitting it on Thursday, the Thursday of committee week for a number of years. The Wednesday is a throwback to when we used to have committee meetings during the day, so this is just an update, so the rules reflect what happens in practice, and these are submitted on Thursday. That's the first change.
Okay, that's just here on line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So instead of Wednesday, we're using Thursday.
Yes, which is what it is in practice.
All right.
And then the second change, which you see on page 2, allows for...
Where are you?
Excuse me, the back page here, the top paragraph there.
All right.
Okay. And I'd have to look along with you, but what it allows for is not only individual members to be allowed to submit these things on Thursday, which is typical, but also on the date of the RLA exchange. When we get the RLAs from the executive's office, it allows us to receive individual resolutions and local laws on the same day that RLAs are given to us. So that would be the second day after the main meeting.
So the first clarity was the Thursday when the RLAs were actually due. Currently, that was updated to be reflective and spelled out. Then the second change was the RLA deadline to have the option for legislators to submit on the Wednesday after the Monday meeting.
Okay.
How many, oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Bergdorf.
How many days does this actually add, Ralph?
Well, you're actually able to go through the committee process and actually do everything within 30 days, as long as the i's are dotted, t's are crossed, and everything along that line. And as this committee did wind up saying, if it becomes too cumbersome, they wanted a clause to wind up adding, to review this in 6 months. It's not taking away.
But I mean, I'm just, I've got the words, but I'm having trouble putting it into the abstract. If, compared to what it is now, is this 5 days earlier, 6 days earlier? How much earlier does it start the cycle?
Well, depending, it's probably about 2 weeks earlier. 10 to 14 days, depending on the way the calendar falls. So the second Monday is our legislative meeting, correct, Mr. Bergdorf?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so the Wednesday after that second Monday, so this technically the
2 days
second Wednesday,
later, yeah.
would individual legislators would be able to put in legislation, and it would go through the committee process.
Right.
Currently, it winds up, the individual exchange is 10 days prior to, or the Thursday, 10 days, give or take, prior to the legislative meeting. So roughly that's about a 10-day to 14-day window that individuals, if they so choose, it is not required. This is just an option that if a legislator wants more transparency and to get something out within 30 days, they have the option to submit it on the Wednesday after the monthly meeting, along with the RLAs. The chair of the legislature and majority council are able to move those individual resolutions or requests from legislators into various committees. So if there was something that the law committee was going to be looking at for this month after the July meeting, which was on July, what was that, July 9th we had a meeting? Was our meeting July 9th? 10th?
12th.
12th.
Yep.
So on the 14th, they would have been able to submit an RLA individual resolution, and it could actually be looked on, whether it was,
Okay, but does it have to be on that Wednesday for it to move forward?
well, that's the, no, they still have what's at the end of the month.
No, but I mean, if you want to have it be considered for a,
Yes, you would have to hit that Wednesday deadline.
okay,
And if you don't hit it, then you still have the,
what time on,
Noon.
12 noon?
same as the RLAs are due.
Moving it to Thursday, right?
No, the Thursday is the current RLA deadline. So I'm opening it up to the, does everybody understand the legislative process without trying to belabor this? So right now, when you have an individual resolution, it has to go in. We have an individual deadline, which is 10 days before our monthly meeting. So it's the Thursday before our which would be our caucus. So you wind up having, that's the deadline that everything has to be exchanged. What I'm doing is giving the legislators an opportunity to wind up being part of the actual process that the executive has, so that we can actually get things in and out of committee in 30 days, as opposed to carrying them on for 2 months on an agenda. As long as everything, all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed.
Is there any change on how this is referenced for committee? If something came in on a normal schedule as we do today, is there anything different?
There's nothing that's different. I mean, when the current RLA, the current exchange,
Yeah.
okay, individual exchange, where the Democrats and Republicans, well,
Yeah.
39 of us, we write our little laws and we
Yeah.
exchange them, and the majority gives them to Arnis and the chairman's office. We all exchange, and then it winds up going out, and the chairman says, okay, well, this is going here, this is going here, or we're going to vote on this, we're going to vote on this. That still stays the same. That process is still going to wind up occurring. I'm just putting into the rules that there is another time, which everybody knows. So like when we get this agenda and all of the rest of the committees, the county executive and his staff submit RLAs, which is 2 days after our legislative meeting. What I'm doing is opening that up to the legislators to wind
I
up putting
understand
in.
that. So you're
to
telling
get
me
it up.
that the chairman is still going to make the decision?
Absolutely. No, I'm not touching any rules, because if you wind up trying to take any power away from the chairman, then it has to wind up going out to referendum. So all this is doing is that the chairman and the majority council, when RLAs come in, they move them into the various committees as we wind up getting our agendas on the fourth week.
I guess I brought this up with the original iteration. Say I put a bill in on that Wednesday, and I sent it in to Kevin, to Pat, and I say I want this considered. Who then's gonna say, well, it should go to Civic Center, or Health, or Law?
Again, it's the same thing. Who does it now? It's the majority council and the chairman. Nothing is changing.
Sure, but we do that at a public meeting.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, we do.
The legislature lives.
Do it at the
Stop.
legislature. The chairman does.
Time out.
The
When
RLAs. maybe
the
not.
RLAs come in,
Forget
it's
the
not the
RLA.
public. All I'm doing is opening up the legislative process. So you guys passed this out with a favorable recommendation a month ago. Explained everything. Now rehashing the whole thing because I took and put in all of the clarifying things.
Yeah, I
So all that I'm doing is that the chairman and the majority council are able to take your legislation that you do, Doug, or anybody else, and they can put it into committee so that the committee can wind up voting on it, getting it on the agenda within 30 days to vote on it. Quicker.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm saying,
So,
how,
Who's gonna decide?
say I put a resolution in.
yes,
And it amends, it has financial implications, and has legal implications, and maybe public health implications. So I email it in, and the majority council's office gets it, and the chairman's office gets it, and whoever else. How then is I understand the chair signs the resolutions. When would I find out at the meeting, all right, I put a bill in, it's on the agenda, and then the chair says, that's going to audit and finance. So
well,
that's
that would
enough.
be, your responsibility as the author of the legislation to find out, okay, I put it in for this Wednesday, which committees is this gonna go on? So then when you submit it in, you would wind up working with the chair's office and majority council's office to wind up saying, okay, my bill X is going where?
Well, shouldn't it say then, that the chair has to sign the bill within, 72 hours? or
Well, no,
maybe
because
something like
that would be changing the rules from what it is now, because it's going in under the RLA process. And if the chair doesn't like the committees that it is in, then the chair has the right at the legislative meeting to say, you know what, I think that this should go to audit and finance, I think that this should go here. I think
But you
this
just
should go
said the
there.
chair was making the
He
determination.
is, he makes the decision with the
Does
majority
Rule
council.
23 say anything about majority council having input into what goes where?
What's that?
There's a consistent reference to the chair and majority council.
Oh, yeah, that's how it's done now, isn't it, with the chair's office? That's how it's always been done when I was a staffer. So when RLAs come in from the executive,
Is that in the rules?
that's how it's always been.
It's not in the rules.
Well, then, all I'm doing is following the rules. If the chair doesn't wind up doing it, they go into the majorities council. Somebody sets the agenda. So if nobody knows who sets the agenda, I know who set the agenda when I worked here, prior to being a staffer. So if you guys don't have that worked out, then shame on you.
It's done in public now, and it should continue to be done in public, not in a law library.
Well, I'm looking for it to be moved up. So it'll be interesting to see if you guys voted on a favorable and you do anything different this month. So I'm looking for this to be moved up.
Does anybody else have a question for the sponsor? Does anybody want to offer a motion to move this out? Mr. Feeney, is there a second, is it with a positive recommendation?
Yes.
Is there a second? There's no second. Do you want to move it out without a recommendation or with a negative recommendation?
So funny. Go through the motions, go through the whole thing. So what's next? So no recommendation? Is there a motion for no recommendation?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second for no recommendation?
Ask a question.
Sure, Mr. Fine.
I mean, I like the idea of, being able to move the process along faster. I think what people are concerned about, and I am too, is that right now it's a public process. Everyone sees, the whole public, it's even videotaped live, sees the chair send individual resolutions to a specific committee. Now,
For
we don't
individual
really-
legislators?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's what this is about. is for-
So, but on the same token is, so when the executive puts his stuff through,
Yeah.
is that a public process?
It's a separate branch of
It's a
government,
different-
not for us to.
So it goes through, so we
But it's-
can't follow the same set and have an opportunity to wind up going through the same procedure?
Well, this is for individual resolutions, so why don't we just amend this to say that, make it clear that it's still the chair that's assigning it to a specific committee?
Well, if you're adding, and here's the thing, because I'll table this and I'll get a legal opinion, because if you're gonna wind up now adding, I think that has to wind up going out for a referendum, because if you're increasing his power.
It's the power he already has, right?
Well, he already has, but if you're saying that what you're doing is that you're changing the timeframe, and you're having the legislators be able to submit it 2 weeks earlier, I don't see what the hangup is, other than people.
They do.
So put it out however you want. I'm looking to move it forward.
Ralph,
Yes.
is it possible that you would give the chair's office and the majority council a month to see if they could come up with some language about how it could be jointly referenced with each side having a veto power or something?
So I guess this is where we are at. And my question to you and to everybody else, so the 3-4 months that this has been here, that this hasn't been hammered out, nobody's reached out to me other than, and it should have been voted on the floor last month when it was there, but because somebody had a question, I was trying to do things the right way. I wound up now taking it back. I make those things. Now, nobody wants to put it out with a favorable recommendation, which, whatever, I get it. So I'm looking to move it forward because I think that it's funny. Haha. Joke's on me.
Right.
So whatever you put it out with the recommendation.
Does anybody have a motion to move this out with no recommendation?
Yeah, I make a motion.
Mr. Feeney, is there a second? I'll second it for you, Mr. Signorachi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, by show of hands, who wants to move this out with no recommendation for full consideration? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4. How many opposed? 1, 2, 4 to 2. Well, I don't even, I mean, that's not the majority of the committee members, so I don't know if that passed. Is it a majority of those present, or is it a majority? It's a majority.
Majority of the president.
Okay,
It's a
so-
majority of those presidents.
All right.
Comes out.
So it moves out with no recommendation. Okay.
Those on the committee.
Item number 22, Resolution 282A, the Small Business Committee. This is yours too, Mr. Signorachi.
Yes, it is.
What number?
So there should be an amendment that is going out.
Yes.
So again, this group of 9 put out in a favorable recommendation last month, favorably, I may add, the small business. I since have changed the name.
Travel.
Small nomenclature.
So what, can you explain specifically what the change is from last month?
So, small business was the
Yeah.
name of the special committee.
Yep,
So, creating a special travel, tourism, commerce, business, industry, and economic development committee.
so you made it broader.
I made it broader. I just expanded it.
Okay.
So, you had no problems with this. I expanded on the title, and
Why?
Because I asked him to expand a little bit.
Okay.
That was a good idea. Maybe it's a little too broad now.
Yeah, I thought some of the feedback was that.
well, you can't have it both ways.
All right, well, what do members of the committee think?
I think it's fine to have everything, but I think the first words ought to be economic development.
I agree.
Well, then you can put in a resolution and wind up changing it next month.
Do you
Oh,
want to amend it, Mr. Signatch?
I do not. I want it out on the floor, and if Mr. Bergdorf wants to amend it
no,
next month...
I don't
then
feel
we
that
can-
strongly about it, I just thought it made sense, that's all.
Any other members, any other questions for the sponsor? Ms. Plosky, did you have one?
Not a question, I guess it's a comment. It does seem to be expanded far beyond the small business focus you started with.
Well, it was business, so all I did is say, okay, what's involved in business? Travel and tourism is business. Industry and commerce is business. Economic development is business. I took that from the chair, and that's what I came up with. So they're all part of business or types of business in Albany County. And I guess I could have added agriculture, but I figured that already has
Agriculture, agriculture.
conservation and improvement, so I did not want to add that to be too confusing.
Okay. Any other questions for the sponsor? Mr. Mayo?
Rob, can't this be contradictory, though? I mean, if you have, I'm thinking about the Paul Sprinkler resolution. You could have the business committee, say the whole body wants to pass something, then the business committee, the 9 people say, well, no, we don't want it. I mean, don't we kind of get egg on our face in the public? I mean,
Well, it all depends on who the chair and who the majority leader wind up putting on the committee. Because it's not a committee of anybody else, it's a committee of us 39 legislators. So we can wind up having, and it has happened, where things have gone out of a committee with no recommendation or a negative recommendation, and they have passed the full body. So you can wind up having that situation, which has happened in the past. Don't ask me to give you verbatim on all of those things, but it has happened. So that's up to whoever the 9 people are, with 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans, the way that our rules say. The chairman winds up picking the chair of the committee, and then they go boom, 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 boom for the remaining 9 with the majority and the minority leaders.
What's the purview of this committee? I mean, are they going to be contacting businesses? I don't
No,
know.
it's same thing as what audit and finance is, same thing as what elder care is, same thing what aging is. I just think that we should have a vetting for something that deals with business. And I think that our rules haven't been looked at in 20 some odd years, and I think that this is one of the things that we should wind up doing.
But
Okay.
isn't that more constrictive? Now we have 39 people that look at these things. We're going to go down to 9. And I just think there's more.
Well, there's
more
9 on every
room for-
committee, Dave. So this is not doing anything different. I mean, you had a special committee on elder care, you had a special committee on court facilities. So this may wind up being something where nothing goes to it, and it's just a special committee that's there, that
Well-
if needed.
And that's the point, though, isn't it? That it's a special committee which is advisory in nature.
If
It's
there's
not
like-
actually, it doesn't have the ability to use the state legislature's nomenclature, report bills to the floor of the legislature.
Well, if there's legislation that's sent by the chair, and it has to have a, sort of like elder care. Until we made elder care a permanent committee, back in, was it January, February, we had a meeting. It was still a temporary committee. We wound up pushing things out to the floor for the full legislature to vote on, which we all did.
Mr. Drake, did you have a question? know
I
you're-
did, so long as the standing members are done?
I believe so.
Okay.
Standing members have to
Or
be
whatever,
done.
real law members,
What's that?
the real law members. Yes, the committee members, because I'm not a committee member, so I'm.
They have to wind up being put on by the chair and the majority.
No, I was asking if I could go.
He was deferring. Give me the
And I was,
floor.
yeah, they're
Go
giving me the
ahead.
floor.
Time is money here, Mr.
Time is
Drake.
money. So, I mean, it sounds to me, I'm in favor of this. It sounds to me essentially that what you're trying to do is have someone take a closer look at how these things might impact travel, tourism, business, and economic development, and that's the thrust of it, right? I mean, that's what we're getting down.
If there's legislation, sort of like we have a law committee that looks at our laws.
Right.
This would wind up being no different that if there's something, and again, per the chair, putting something in this committee. If they wind up having things in the committee, they meet. If they don't, they don't.
And the idea would be that the people on this committee would take the time to educate themselves as to the impacts of these local laws upon these industries, or, well, whatever you call them.
Well,
Segments.
on anything that is put into the committee.
Right.
Such as that you do for everything that goes before you on law and every other committee that you're on.
Right.
So it's no different.
Right, so that's what I'm just trying to illustrate. I think I understand where you're trying to go with this, and there's been some questions that seem that's confusing, but the idea is just to put a spotlight on things that have been referred to it, and that might bring expertise to the table.
Correct.
Oh, thank you for doing that.
Great. Any other questions? Can I have a motion to move this out?
Favorably, hopefully.
Favorable recommendation. Mr. Bergdorf, seconded by Mr. Feeney. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, this one's out.
Thank you, sir.
You are welcome. All right. Now we'll go back to item number 3, Mr. Bullock. This is the paid sick days bill. I defer to you, sir.
Yeah, like table, we've got an amendment out there. We're gonna stay with it. 5 employees or less will be defined as a small employer. It accounts for 46% of the employers in Albany County, according to our research. We are still trying to, we're open for amendments. Other than that, and we're looking at other small amendments to the bill, but essentially, we're asking the table until we get the language straight.
Okay, great. So we're going to table item number 3 at the request of the sponsor. Item number 4, local law number F for 2018. Mr. Drake, thank you for joining us.
Thank
Do you
you.
want to speak on this?
Yes, I would. We come to the table today, would like to move this forward. There's been an amendment that we're going to pass out here in response to the county attorney's letter and other commentary that may or may not have been proffered at the time of. Exactly.
You want to pass one of those down here, Mr. Drake?
Yes, they're on their way.
This was handed out, just for clarification, this was handed out 2 months ago. Correct.
Okay, so, do you want to walk us through it, Mr. Drake?
I would.
What do you want to do with it?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to amend the original offering and remove essentially the entirety of it, sections 1 through 3. We're going to scrap that, and we're going to address the concerns by actually making an amendment to local law number 8 of 2011, which is known as the Ethics Law, Code of Ethics of County
Horstmeyer Law.
Officers. I'm sorry?
Ryan Horstmeyer, that was his
Oh,
last piece of
okay, the
legislation.
Horstmeyer Law. So, I don't know by that nomenclature, but I'll take that under advisement. So, in any event, the proposal here is to undertake to amend that law, which will essentially carry forward what I've been proposing here. We're going to do it this way so that we can address the concerns of the county attorney. And I think that it does. If we read through this, it gives us the opportunity to continue the amend the powers of the Ethics Committee so that we're not running afoul of anything that may or may not have already been vested in them. And in the end, I think I would like everybody to pay very close attention in the end. If you turn over your amendment under Section 2, under applicability and effective date, two key points. The first is that the local law shall not apply retroactively. So certainly this doesn't apply to anybody who may or may not have some kind of relationship that, is already in the county's employ. So we don't have to worry about that. The second thing is that, again, pursuant to sections 22 and 33 of the Municipal Home Rule Law, because this law would curtail the powers of Albany County elected officials and amends the charter, it would be subject to a mandatory public referendum. Therefore, this cannot be brought into effect without the public's vote. So while some of the, I will be candid, some of the criticism has been, well, it does curtail or burden the powers of elected officials. I say that's the point. And therefore, it can't happen until the public says yes or no. And so we put it in the hands of the public and we move forward intrepidly.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Drake? And what did you want to do tonight? Did you want to table this and allow folks to review it? Did you want to move it out with or without a recommendation? What are you looking for?
Well,
is it a resolution or a local law? This is a local law.
It's a local law.
Sure. So do you have a?
I know the public hearing was pushed out of this committee, however, it has not come out of another committee, so you can't move the local law.
Right, we can't move the law.
Okay, that's helpful to know.
So we can have the opportunity to review the amendment and bring it back next month, and we're still waiting for the other committee for the local law.
Mr. Drake, let me just ask you, is it your intention to get the public hearing moved out later this week?
Yes.
Wherever the other committee is, so that we can?
Yes, not a
We're getting a
personnel.
little bogged down with our agendas here.
Yes.
Okay, got it. And Mr. Mayo, I know you previously sponsored the other one.
Yeah, this is nothing what I sponsored.
Okay.
So I don't know, I have to look at it.
You have to look at it. Okay.
And as a matter of fact, I mean, Todd, we went through this, Todd and I, we talked about, we made changes. And I know I told you in the beginning, back in November, I think, that if it went out to a public vote, I don't think you would get many Democrats on it. And that's why I said, let's stay away from it. So, I think we're kind of wasting our time here, to be honest with you. I mean, we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Intrepidly was the word I used.
Well, I mean, I think we can get back together and do something.
Yeah, maybe we can find a way. It doesn't have to be a public vote.
I thought we had worked on it.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've seen this.
Well, this is a response to the county attorney, Dave. That's why, the county attorney didn't like all the good things we had to say, so we changed all the good things we had to say in a different way.
That's up to him.
Yeah.
We could take a vote. I mean, we kind of had this, nailed down, I thought.
Yeah.
So he could always view that.
Does he have a question about this? Yeah, I think so. Are you raising your hand back there, Mr. Signorachi?
I do, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Just for clarity. So if, I know it doesn't go after anybody that's currently county employed, but say John Doe, who may be a relative of Jane Doe, who is an elected official or something along that line, is currently an employee, but they take another job, would this prohibit anyone from taking another job in the future?
Within the county?
Within the county.
Well, no, because, as I read it, they're already in the county's employ.
But if it's promotion or if it's a pay raise or anything along that line, it wouldn't.
We could clarify that, Ralph. I mean, if you wanted to say they're already working in the executive's office and they had a promotion within the executive's office, that could be a fair way to, that could be clarified, if you think that's worth it.
Just asking, that's up to you as a sponsor, but I'm just looking for.
Yeah, I don't have an objection to that. I think if somebody's already working and diligently performing here with a history, it's a fair to keep them here.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
All right, so we'll table this at the request of the sponsor. He's going to move the public hearing out, and we'll revisit it next month.
Mr. Chairman, I do have 17 and 19. Would you like to address those?
Yeah, sure.
All right, might as well.
All right, we moved to item number 17, local law and
Local law N. This is the amending the section 1101 of the Albany County Charter to promote the hiring of an economic development director. Just a little history on this. As co-chair of the Economic Development Task Force, we did meet with a large number of people responsible for economic development and in the area from all the towns and cities, and as well as members or representatives of the Chamber Capital Region Chamber. And one of the overarching themes of everybody's response was that they wanted to see somebody in the Albany County economic planning position. And the suggestion was made there that it be, that the job description be brought more current, which is to allow it to be somebody with economic development background as opposed to somebody necessarily with urban, urban planning background. So the idea of loosening the job description is to allow the executive to bring forth hopefully more candidates for personnel and the legislature's review.
Okay.
So this is just to encourage filling that post, and I do believe, according to my conversations with the executive, that he was, in favor of this.
Okay, Mr. Simpson?
Yeah, I just have a grave concern from a merit system civil service point of view, and it seems to me that the reason why the planning component had to be put in the charter was because of this idea that, well, this position that's going to supervise people who deal with conservation and planning just needs to have expertise in the economic development area. It doesn't make sense to me. There's a reason why there's a planning component for somebody who's going to supervise expert planners for a city of the significance of Albany. So I don't care who thought this might be a good idea. I think that this kind of smacks of patronage and cronyism myself. And, from a merit system point of view, I think it's a bad idea.
Okay,
So,
Mr. Berg?
can I respond to that?
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't understand. The job here is that they're going to supervise the city of Albany's planners? I don't see that in here. Where does that come up? Is that, I may not have been.
That's part of the duties description that I remember.
So you're saying that the city planners would directly report to them? I don't think that's true.
Mr. Bergdorf?
I think
this going.
I sort of have the same concerns that Todd has. I think this is a good idea because often there is conflict between economic developers and planners. The planning function in Albany County relates to the Albany County Planning Board,
Right.
okay, which gives, for the most part, advisory opinions for, especially in the incorporated areas that have their own planning departments. They basically defer to Colony, the city of Albany, et cetera. But in the county, what we're missing here is someone who's really thinking big picture economic development. Why is Amazon going to Rensselaer County for 1 million square feet and 1,400 jobs as opposed to coming to Albany County? That's what we need an economic development department for. Then it's up to someone else to work within sites in Albany or Colony or Guilderland or Bethlehem who are going to do the planning that's associated with that.
Right.
We don't actually do that planning. Albany County doesn't do that. But we are missing the boat. We're the only county without an economic development department.
Well, I got to clarify what's being asked for here, and what we want to provide is a go-to person in Albany County. It's sort of like a quarterback. You've got, Albany and County.
Yeah, I understand, Mr. Drake.
Well, you understand, but I don't know that he does, Mr.
Sure,
Chairman.
but, there's gonna be a public hearing on that. You have item number 19 on here, which is the public hearing. We have to table this until the public hearing occurs. So, if we could do that, and we'll save
Okay.
the conversation.
All right, we'll hold the conversation, yeah. I'll make some notes and we'll try to address those more for you, Mert.
Okay, no problem.
Is that okay with you, Mr. Simpson?
Yeah, we
Okay,
can
thank
revisit
you.
it.
So we'll table item number 17 at the request of the sponsor, pending the public hearing. Can we just take 19 now, which is resolution 284?
Yeah, we can do
Which is
that.
the public hearing on the underlying local law N?
I'll move it.
All right, we have a motion to move item number 19, that's the public hearing on local law N, second by Mr. Bergdorf? Seconded by Mr. Bergdorf, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, 19's out.
Thank you.
Okay, did you have something else on here, Mr. Drake?
I do not. Thank you for hearing me, Mr. Chairman,
All
and
right,
to all
thank
committee.
you. We'll go back to 5 now. This is Mr. Clenihan, this is a public hearing on local law G, which I believe is yours, right? Okay. So you want to move that out? 5 and 6, the public hearings on your 2 local laws, G and H?
Those are my animal local laws, correct?
Yes,
I will table both those.
Table the public hearings. So we're going to table the public hearings 5 and 6. Item number 7 and 8 are the local laws. Local law J and local law H. They're also yours, they're the underlying local laws. We'll table those at your request also. We're gonna table item number 7, number 8. Item number 9, this is Mr. Miller's local law I. This is the fire sprinkler local law. This was tabled last month at the request of the committee for additional information from local municipalities about the mandate. Mr. Miller, do you want to address that? And also, there's a handout being passed around from the executive's office regarding the financial implications behind the local law. I don't know if you want to get into that here, because it's really fiscal in nature or not.
Let's have some more paper, everybody.
You can address that in tandem.
Yeah, I would request that it be moved out of committee. There is one issue with it, I want to make the committee aware of. Mr. Clanahan last month had asked that we notify the municipalities.
Yes.
I wrote a letter relating to my concerns that I sent to the majority leader, the chairman, and to the chairman of the committee.
Yes.
And then I also, since I got no responses back from that, I wrote a letter out to municipalities and gave that to the chairman's office and to the majority office. And that is not going out as far as I know, so.
Well, at least you're making a good faith effort here to get the information the members have requested.
Don't want to move it out at this point in time. You know, I guess I'd request that you have at least schedule another meeting before the monthly meeting to review it if that's a concern, but, you know, but it's going to, you know.
You're looking for a post-public forum?
Well, I'd like to get it moved out, but if you don't want to move it out because the fact that that letter hasn't gone out, then.
Let me ask, this letter that Mr. Miller's talking about, is it possible to get this out, Mr. Miller, here's the problem. By the time he gets out, you gotta give him at least 2 or 3 weeks to respond.
Well, they've had a couple of weeks already.
Well, and the letter never went
It
out.
didn't go out, I understand that, but I don't know, you know, that's kind of out of my control, and I don't, you know, it's.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Bergdorf.
Paul, I looked at the law that went out with the agenda, and you made some fairly substantial changes.
There was changes that were made before the last monthly meeting, but they weren't included in the law that came up last month because they were.
So for people seeing this, are you convinced? Are you telling us that this is the final version here?
Yes, it would have been out last month, but Brandon said it was too late to publish it.
Okay.
But there is one change that was made after, which I want to point out also, which kind of affects this other letter that we got. I spoke to DPW a couple weeks ago, to Lisa, and she indicated that DPW doesn't have the expertise to do this, and it should be under the Department of General Services. I made that change, and apparently she never got that information. That is a change. This will be if it's going to be administered by the county, which I hope in most cases it's not going to be, but if it does, it will be General Services Department, not Public Works.
Okay, I just, you know, many of the things that we raised last time, what number is this again?
Nine. Only on 9.
I apologize. Did you take out the sales tax intercept?
No, it's still in it.
It's still in here?
Yes, it is. Well, I'll tell you what was taken out. We changed it from Department of Public Works to General Services Department. We also removed the trade-off provisions because I was informed by some of the codes inspectors that they already have that ability to make those trade-offs, so there was no need to have this in the bill, so I was taken out. And also the annual inspection was taken out because it wasn't required by NFPA.
Okay, so yeah, the annual inspection is out.
And that was brought up at the public hearing, or actually one of the meetings, I think.
Is the variance section been taken out?
The trade-offs, you mean?
No, there was a section in here and at one point in time that said there could be no variance from this local law. That nobody could give a variance.
No, what we took off was the section on trade-offs. I'm not sure what you're referring to exactly, Mr. Burke, on the variances.
Well, that's right. It's the problem when we don't have the proper documents last month when we were looking at the meeting. So, I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing that the only change that's underlined is general services. And I talked to the General Services Commissioner today, and I don't want to speak for him other than saying he's gathering information about the costs and the impact to his department for something he's not set up for. So there will be sort of, you know, a comparable memo.
With audit finance, yeah.
Yeah, but I had another question that I haven't gotten a correct, well, I don't want to say I haven't gotten a correct answer. I've gotten a bunch of different opinions. If somebody puts this in a code, okay, 1 and 2 family sprinklers, and says it's for new homes, okay? Most of the code people that I've talked to have told me that when you do a substantial renovation, which is generally, I know when we worked at the Dormitory Authority, anything over 51%, you had to comply with the code as it was updated. Now, that would strike me to mean that if you live in the city of Albany, you've got 1,000 homes with big red X's on, that you're having a difficult time developing to begin with, and now you're going to add the cost of sprinklers to them in a renovation. It's going to impact the land bank for when the land bank does anything. And it will, I mean, I don't know how many residential parcels there are in the city of Albany or Guilderland and Bethlehem, but I know there are 29,000 residential parcels in the town of Colony. So if somebody is doubling the size of their house or putting an addition on, or there's a fire, I think they're, by operation of process and law, this requirement is going to be an impact on every parcel of land, not just new. It may only be in effect for the 500 homes that get built, and I just made that number up. I don't know how many there are countywide, but I think the catchment basin is much larger, and it will have a large impact in Albany County.
I mean, that's
not a requirement of the law. Whether it becomes an ancillary requirement, I'm not aware of that. But what I was told was if this had gone into the fire code as it was presented in the International Fire Code, it would not have required that renovations would have to have sprinklers, so that's why it wasn't included here. So without getting something from municipalities, I did get feedback from one municipality, and that was not one of their comments, but I guess it really comes down to if the municipality has that in their code.
Mr. Klein, do you still want the information that you requested last month? I mean, we can table this.
I mean, I hate to drag things out. I think it would be good to know where the localities stand on this.
Sure, I understand.
For one, for, watching out for our own local taxpayers, but for two, if the localities aren't going to do it, then the responsibility is shift back to the county, and that could be significant. So,
well, that's what this
I would
memo.
like to know.
Sure.
And I know it's tough to get that response sometimes, but.
Mr. Miller, are you willing to table this and work with Chair's office to get this letter out?
Well, I've been working with them. I don't know what, where we're at. I guess.
I mean, have a sidebar conversation with.
Yeah,
I'm trying to help you out here because last month we couldn't get any votes on this thing. So I don't know if that's going to change. What do you want? I mean, what do you want to do?
I mean, if you want a holding committee, then it's up to let the committee go ahead and hold the committee. But I'm not asking for that. But if that's what you want to do.
All right. What do the committee members want to do? Does anybody?
Can I just ask? Can you show me where the intercept language is still in here?
It's in sub D, isn't it? Yeah, it's in sub D, section 3, sub D.
Sales tax receipts.
Yeah, line 3 or 4.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
All right. What are the folks in the committee? Do you have some opinions? on the issue?
I will tell you, I mentioned this
You
to
want to
the,
table it?
I mentioned this to the supervisor of the town of Colony, who looked like they didn't even want to talk about it and asked me to send it to their council for review.
Okay.
Because they were not aware of it.
That's Colony.
That's Colony.
Okay. I'm interested to see what the city of Albany has to say about it, particularly myself. So I would like to table it and get some information from the city. That's my preference. Anybody else have an opinion?
Support the chair.
Okay, great.
I support.
Can I have a motion to table it then and try to get this letter out, in the next few weeks? Is that possible? All right.
Could I make and I don't know who the correct person to address this to. I know we all have councils, and the chair now has a council. Could someone look into the issue of substantial renovations?
This is an excellent point that Mr. Bergdorf brings up, and it's a major concern of mine, is specifically for all these vacant and abandoned buildings we have in the city. When somebody buys it for 10 grand, if it's gutted and it's a full rehab, do they then need to meet the requirements of the local law if it were enacted? Because it's going to significantly increase the cost of renovating all these buildings that,
But it's
literally.
still not a new home.
It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, Doug, once it's a gut, you gotta put new plumbing in it, new electric in it. You can't just put electric that's 75 years
I
old.
believe that's up to the individual municipalities. I know Gillen has a code where on commercial buildings, if they're gonna renovate over 50%.
Well, I think, so if the city could come back to us and say, yeah, this is problematic, or.
No, but I think it's their code is what I'm saying. If they have that requirement, then yeah, it's gonna affect it, but if they don't, then it would.
I would just make this comment, it's not really fair to Mr. Miller that we keep tabling this over and over and over again. He's trying to get the thing moved out. Hopefully next month we'll get this letter. If not, Mr. Miller, we'll deal with it then. But, it's my apologies that this keeps happening. All right, can I have a motion to, I make a motion to table it. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Clenahan. Anybody opposed? Anybody in the negative for tabling? Okay, so we're gonna table this now. Gonna hopefully get this letter out on item number 9. All right, item number 10. This is Mr. Fine's local law J on the bulk storage tanks.
I'm going to table this. I'm still in discussions with Global Partners. I think everyone received a letter from them where they made a proposal. I have responded to them, and so now I'm waiting to hear back.
Okay, item number 31 is yours too, Mr. Fine. You want to go over that while you're here?
Yes.
What do you know?
What number? 31. Yes, this is a law that would prohibit county government from investigating, inquiring about people's immigration or citizenship status. It's something that's often referred to as sanctuary county law. I'm going to table it for now while we discuss the exact language of the law. But if anyone has any questions about it, I'm happy to answer.
Item number 31, local law number R, is tabled at the request of the sponsor. Let's go back to item number 11. This is a public hearing on the local law K.
Speaking for my co-prime, Mr. Bullock, I would like to move the public hearing.
Great, all in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Great. All right, the public hearing's out on local law K. Item number 12, item number 13 are being tabled at the request of the sponsor. Item number 14, local law number K, we're going to table pending the public hearing. Is that okay, Mr. Clenahan?
Absolutely.
Item number 15, local law L. This is the polystyrene bill Mr. Touche put in. He's not here. He asked me to move it out, but we haven't had the public hearing on it yet, and I think that's really premature. So the public hearing on local law L will occur tomorrow night, so we'll revisit this in August.
Can you put me on as a co-sponsor?
Can we please add Mr. Fine, Mr. Simpson, Mr. Clenahan to local law number L, Mr. Touche's polystyrene bill? Anybody else on that one? Mr. Mayo also? All right, so he's not here. We'll table item number 15. Item number 16, local law M. This is the restructuring. This is mine. We're going to table this at my request. We did item number 17. Item number 18, resolution number 281. Who's item number 18? got so many items, I can't even keep track.
You're doing a good job.
Glenn's
You're doing
not
a
here,
good
we're gonna table this since he's not here. Unless, this is so minor, has anybody heard from Mr. Glenn? You heard from Mr. Glenn?
Kelly was here earlier.
Okay, we'll table it, he's not here, yes.
Chris, on local law L, I want to go on there. I see my name isn't on there, it should be.
Which one is?
Local law L, if you don't mind. Kelly Styrene Foreman.
Yes.
Point of order.
Yes.
Sorry to go out of order.
No. I heard you say local law L. Aren't we supposed to have a name for each of these now? Didn't we, wasn't that part of the modernization thing?
No.
That wasn't part of that. We're not there yet.
Call it food service polystyrene, if you must.
Huh? Okay.
Service, Kelly.
So okay.
Okay, let's keep going here.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to go as a sponsor on 281.
And that's what
Okay. Please have
I
Mr.
get lost
Fine.
in the album.
Resolution
Black
281.
Mr.
Simpson also.
Mr. Simpson also. Do you want to, does anybody have any typically, we ask for an explanation of these resolutions, and I'd like to follow that practice, unless folks really don't have a problem with this.
Kevin? Kevin?
Yes.
Put me on 281 also, please.
I'll go on 281.
Well then, I guess it's gonna move out of committee favorably.
19 we did. 20 we're on. This is the reapportionment local law. We had a special meeting last month. There were a lot of changes that were discussed. Ms. Cunningham circulated an amended version with track changes. Everything in blue was the language that was added as a, I don't know, after we had in relation to the special committee meeting. She disseminated that information, correct?
My office. Okay. Send it around after, or I get.
We don't have a physical hard copy. We're gonna table this now because Mr. Kraus, Ms. Cunningham, Ms. Williams.
I printed my own.
nobody's
I worried that would be the case.
Local law, and we're gonna provide via email, majority council will provide via email the updated tracked change version tomorrow, tonight or tomorrow to members of the committee for review. The goal of the sponsor, I think, is to review this and keep the dialogue moving. So perhaps next month we'll have a more robust discussion, but please, folks, review those changes. We spent over an hour and a half discussing it. I think a lot of positive.
Kevin,
Yeah, that's good.
can I have a copy of that too?
Yes,
Even
I'll
though
send it
I'm
out.
not-
to
You send it to
Yeah,
everybody?
why don't you
Everybody.
send it to everybody?
All right, items number 21 and 22 are out. Item number 23 is the public hearing on the MRT tax. Anybody move it? It's a public hearing. You guys are okay with this? All right, we'll move item number 23. Can I have a motion by Mr. Bergdorf, second by Mr. Feeney, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's out. Item number 24, resolution number 332, public hearing on local law Q. This is the hotel occupancy tax public hearing. A motion by Mr. Bergdorf, seconded by Mr. Feeney, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's out. Item number 25, resolution 333, repealing resolution 445 of 2016. Mr. Joyce, the chair, is here to discuss this item.
Thank you, Chris. We're going to table this tonight.
Okay.
There's a lot of good ongoing discussion going on with the repeal. We have an opinion from the law department that the original resolution that was passed is illegal, violates state law. There's also innuendo, rumor out there that's kind of a political measure. I think we need to stand back on that, but I also think we need to have a good discussion, with the chair of the law committee, and we also need to bring the city in to explain to us, the impacts, what their plans are for trash and otherwise going forward, much like the informational sessions that we've had before.
Great.
So whether it be the mayor or the treasurer or whoever, I would like to bring them in and educate us on what the problems are.
That's great. So we'll table item number 25 at the request of the sponsor. I would simply note I've requested information from the city. I'm still awaiting a response on this issue.
Right.
So hopefully we can get that dialogue moving, but we'll table it for now.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item number 26, 27, 28 are being tabled, or did we do those already? They're being tabled. All right, item number 29, local law P. This is the MRT. We'll table this pending the public hearing. Item number 30, local law Q. This is the local law imposing the hotel occupancy tax. We'll table this pending the public hearing. Is that okay? Yeah. That's it, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you, everybody, who did that in an hour and 10 minutes. Motion adjourned.